Okay, let's call the personnel committee meeting to order. Looks like we had two meetings to accept minutes from September 27th and October 12th. Moved by Brian, second by Daryl. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Right, you gonna report out straight back on request? Okay, let's go.
So there was an aging services aide part-time that vacated due to a resignation. This person accepted a per diem position instead. There was an aging services assistant that was promoted to aging services specialist. For buildings and grounds, building maintenance mechanic vacated due to a retirement. And the building maintenance worker was promoted. For DPW principal engineering technician, vacated due to a resignation. Probation account clerk vacated due to a resignation. Public health had a nurse vacated due to the promotion to supervising public health nurse. For social services, account clerk vacated due to an appointment to social services examiner position. Caseworker vacated due to a resignation. And we had two clerks vacate, one due to an appointment to an account clerk, and then the other due to a resignation.
These have all been vetted through committee, all approved by the oversight committee.
Usually backfills are just.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, right.
yep,
I mean, they've all been vetted through the committee system,
Yes.
whatever, nothing's coming after committee.
right.
On the probation one, isn't that the one he was gonna fill with something else, or am I wrong? If I got that mixed up. Isn't that the one he was gonna
That
leave?
was clerk, I believe. Wasn't that a clerk that?
The secretary,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the different one.
This
I
is-
tried, okay,
It's-
cause that one's easy to hire.
Right.
Right, okay.
Yes. Want to make sure I didn't.
Because he's restructuring.
Right, that's what I wanted.
Very good. All right, staffing pattern changes.
For DPW, the request to replace the highway 1 position with the highway 2 was moved from public works. It would require a staffing pattern change.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the sheriff spoke at the opioid presentation. He wanted to add a deputy sheriff sergeant. This is also going to finance next, so it would need to be approved at finance before it would be added to the staffing pattern, but I thought I would bring it up now.
So we're adding a deputy sheriff, sorry, to the staffing pattern. Is that budgeted through the opioid settlement?
Yeah, well, indirectly, the opioid's gonna pay the other one, so this money will be left for the one that's vacated.
Staffing pattern changes that for person,
It has to be approved in finance before it would be,
Yeah.
move it to the finance.
You got Dave
Second.
and Daryl? You're gonna have to explain this before one meeting. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're probably gonna do it the next meeting.
Opposed? Carried.
We're not going
We're not,
presentation.
we're not going through the
Maybe that's-
presentation, but we'll
Right.
mention how that's gonna work.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Next on the,
So now we have a few discussion items. Basically, the county attorney and real property are retiring. You can start with county attorney and the process of filling that position. The posting has been up until today. We have received a couple applications. And now I just provide direction. There we go.
how long has it been out there? About 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, and you sort of hit all the places that an attorney might see it with the private limited, pretty small pool. We do have a couple applications. So we can either.
I thought retirement was decision contingent upon the incumbent finding their own replacement.
What do you think? Carol?
Be careful what you wish for. Okay.
So the two options are to extend the deadline to see if we get more applications, and say we've got a couple, let's start the process. And we can set up, you would vet, have you vetted them yet to make sure they meet the qualification? Okay, so we would set up interviews and the whole process.
I didn't know if you wanted to extend the time out or not, or just go with what we have. Like you can extend the posting too. if you want.
But ask what the retirement. Maintenance.
Well, he'd like 12/31, but we can corral him for a little longer if we had to.
Yeah, I said, you have to, if you don't reappoint somebody on the second, I would say that's the second. I would hold over in the term, or you can reappoint me on the second and then I could resign and have somebody else for the remainder of the 2 year. So I'm not looking to leave anybody in the lurch.
And I think it's something that we wanna take our time and get it right, if we can.
I've not seen the list, so.
No,
I've
I
got a
have,
couple, I think you literally meant.
Two.
One of those amorphous phrases that can be anywhere from
Same with several.
a handful, right?
Usually we get applications for other positions, and half of them are taken up because they don't want to meet the quals, but she says they meet the quals, so we've got 2 applicants. So the question is, considering the timetable we've got on here, the holidays, do you want to say, we're good, let's start the process and move this right along, or do you want to extend it till 2 weeks till Thanksgiving and then start the interviews right after the holiday? And then try to get it done during December? Wide open.
We can do 2 weeks more, I mean. You can, if we have that limited pool, you're probably not gonna get many more. And we can move those fairly quickly in the first week, second week of December.
I know you lose, sometimes you lose applicants if you wait too long. That's the other.
Mr. Chairman?
Roger, is there someplace we've, been searching for a candidate? Should we be sending this elsewhere? Do you have any suggestions?
So NISAC. We'll send out things every once in a while for positions like that. I've seen from social services, commissioners and things like that, and, County Attorneys Association, but we don't have we have like a listserv, but we don't have, a bulletin board like that with job openings. A lot of times they'll send a thing to the listserv saying, hey, we're looking for a county attorney, or an assistant for that matter, but, I've not really seen great results personally from trying that. Now, in case you found somebody who wanted to try to, had been an assistant for a while, and wanted to try to.
I mean, the problem with opening up more, going into that sort of search, I was even thinking of things like LinkedIn and stuff like that. But the problem with doing that is just what Matt just mentioned. You wind up with a bunch of responses that really aren't responses.
We did indeed, but.
Yeah.
I don't know if the one came from either.
Where is it posted now?
Online indeed, we did the law schools too, they have boards for that. We did reach out to that staff.
Yes.
So the other thing is we've been advertising for an attorney over there for how long?
Almost 2 years.
And the pool has been very small on again. The other incentive is to think about interviewing the first 2. You can still extend that. If you get any more resumes come in there, you know we'll be done the interviewing process for a couple of weeks anyways about that time.
So I have 2 questions. Number one, Washington County residency preferred.
No required.
Well, that's not the posting.
I know, but it's required. The law,
That's my question.
the New York State County law says the board shall appoint a resident attorney. And if there are no resident attorneys, you can look outside. So the famous case for that is Hamilton County. Who generally has somebody from Syracuse, or actually one person from West Falls at the time. But you have to make an effort to find somebody.
Can I ask you,
You can be a resident right after, at the time of appointment or shortly thereafter.
can I ask you, are either one of the applicants Washington County residents?
At least the one,
Okay. So 2 weeks from today is Thanksgiving. So do you want to get the process going, or do you want to wait 2 weeks and then start right after Thanksgiving with the interviews?
right after dinner. Right up north.
Yeah, do we have meetings the week of the 20th at all? Prior to Thanksgiving?
There's one. There's 3 meetings one day, the 21st, we have meetings. IT, GovOps, and Ag and Planning.
Are they all in the morning or are they spread out?
Well, we have.
10 and 1.
One.
10 and 1.
We don't have any agenda items.
I know,
So it's much.
Are there any preferences for you? Committee? which way we go, we get going, and we
Can we
wait.
start the interview like they said, but not like Dave was saying, but not close?
21st, by that time, if we could,
Do
close
what?
date is. Set the interviews for like the 21st or 22nd around that date. You can still extend it, by that time, anyone who's interested should have their resume in.
So you wanna continue the advertisements? And is there any place, you've worked with Roger, there's no other place we should start looking, right? We're aware of.
Once we place an ad.
Roger, there's no place else we should look besides you and Danielle discussing.
There's not really a good job form place for attorneys.
Would an assistant in Saratoga or Warren County see this where the ads are now? Assistant attorney?
If they're looking,
If they're
If
looking,
they're
yeah.
looking, yeah,
Okay,
not,
so 21st, you're gonna do what?
one or two interviews after ag planning, or maybe move ag planning to the morning and then do the interviews at 1 o'clock.
Do following,
Uh,
and then.
Ag planning, depending on the burden, move ag planning to right after the government ops in the morning.
Like 1:30 and 2:30, give me a half an hour. Is that something we can do, Debbie?
So you wanna do the interviews at 1?
1:30?
You can give it a try.
Can we change the ag planning to following
In the
cover
morning.
ops?
Yes,
Plenty of time to do that.
oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll double check.
It's just, that's why the agenda items are important.
Yeah, so you know,
So you don't get
whether the
surprised,
agenda's
right.
full or.
How long do you
empty.
want per interview? An hour?
Or
So can you try to do 1:30 and 2:30, and you can let us know if they can or can't, I mean, that's the holiday week, so they might be traveling, family or whatever. You can check into that and let us know, that would be great. Guess we won't see you again until, they can do by email, we won't see you again until the 16th. Okay, everybody okay with that program at this point? Yes, sir. Okay, that's one.
And
Was that the easiest one to do today, Roger?
I don't say that.
We wanna get those out of here before you leave.
Only once.
so if you flip your. Next. We did receive a couple. For this position as well, well, there's a few, but, a couple don't meet the calls.
Okay.
But again, the state needs to approve the qualifications anyways, so once we find someone, we have to go out to the state and ask them for approval,
After we've been through the interview process,
qualification approval.
after we're already decided or before.
When we have someone, I think is where they would like that to be done.
Just trying to get the,
Hey, previously, my recollection is the person did not meet the goals at the time, but we got compensations.
X number of months.
Right, as we have in public health twice, so. I don't know.
so
if
we have an
that's- I
opportunity.
don't know if that's outside the realm of possibility and saying that's been done before. and this was done.
So the situation is, the ad ends today. We're back in the same boat. Do you want to extend it a little further? Do you want to get this going? Do you want to start the interview process? If that's the case.
How many do we have and how many are qualified?
There were 5 applications and 2 that I've seen were qualified,
how long?
but I have to,
And the other ones, we could make exceptions like Roger said.
the minimum quals are very
Okay,
not
Right, don't be offended.
clear,
by
I
this.
guess you could
But
say, so.
Since you have graciously agreed that if you're not gonna leave us in the lurch, I'm wondering if we should do these on the 21st. Get this going, because I think on the 31st of December,
I don't want to be a factor in your decisions.
no, I'm just saying,
All right, I've tried to say that all.
I'm saying this could be more important than finding an attorney, because we have a little leeway with you. I'm not sure we have leeway here. Should we make these on the 21st? To get them going, or do you want to schedule a different day and just do 4 interviews on both positions? What's the thought?
How long has this one been out?
The same amount of time as the county attorney.
I'll contact the listserv, the County Attorney Association asked them for that. So, I think it's for my job.
Roger, what would happen if on the 31st of December, we did not have a candidate for real property? What happened on January 2nd?
Sitting over there in the corner.
I guess I'd have to look, it's a term appointment, so the first thing you look at is the current person, make another appointment that holds over. I don't know what duties have to be performed, you can point at somebody that as a temporary director to exercise the powers and duties of the office.
You could.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, I think that,
because there's no deputy, there's no that.
personally, I think that if the people we interview are qualified, we have to back out the marketplace. It's right to deal with, I prefer to deal with that first. Because that's a really critical position to everyone and we fit in the interviews for the other people in the first or second week of December.
Well, my question is let's do this position the 21st and then push Roger's position off to the beginning of December because we sort of have a little bit of a time backup here with Roger, but I'm not sure we have it with Laura. Or maybe
Well,
you can
I
clear up.
I was
things for us.
wondering if there is interest in what you had mentioned just a couple minutes ago about having the interviews in one day.
Wanna jump off?
Doing it the day before the meeting.
Jump off the 21st.
Doing it the day before the
Because
meeting.
you to have you,
On the
hate
20th?
to see you
Yeah, the
put
Monday,
off
Monday the
interviewing
20th.
either position and us not
Monday the
being able to,
20th.
because you know where we stand.
That's a possibility to do all the interviews on that day and
Bang
away
it.
from the.
Find out where we are, know where we stand right away.
Go on the 20th.
Right now.
Mr. Chairman.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Bring them all in one day, but
Historically,
many times we have, interviewed people, then sat around and thought about it, then wanted to call them back in, well, we gotta ask these guys these different questions. We've done that several times on positions, not been ready after the first interview. I don't think this is something we wanna, necessarily hurry, but I think I think the real property is a little bit more extended than.
What was that word?
Actually,
I did.
So.
What does it say?
Thinking of our game today, aren't we?
In the past, when we've had vacancies, we've also brought back former employees for.
I was just gonna say, is there
We do have that
a
opportunity.
temporary option
It's
here?
it's possible, yes.
There, yeah, I don't know if anybody's discussed that. There's at least one person before the person that was there who's still out there.
And that person has said they would, they reached out to me when I was in a meeting.
Okay. I don't know that. I'm saying,
Which I
we
was,
did that in personnel.
I was thinking by surprise, but.
Right.
Well, then I think if you're looking at that, we should do it on the 20th, because we want to call them back, we do it the next week.
Oh, I'm not advocating putting it off. I think we do it as rapidly as we can, but just don't necessarily think that's gonna be the cutoff date. I think we might well find ourselves dithering a bit on this.
Why don't we drop this all in Danielle's lap and say, on the 20th, if you can schedule 4, if somebody's got a conflict, if we can roll one of them over until the 21st. Post something, you got a contact. Anybody's taking a week off to go to Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
we lost them.
We lost them all anyway.
The other way to look at it is it's student Thanksgiving Day, and those people are really just gonna show up.
So Debbie, we really have to notice these, even though we're gonna immediately go into executive session, we still need to notice them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they did this.
Here's the rules. Sam?
Do we have any towns out there that have, I know we got away from the county aspect of it. We have any towns out there that have hired assessors recently to do their assessing that might be interested in a full-time job?
Yes,
They would meet those qualifications.
yes.
I've
You
reached
got
out.
somebody that you, okay.
I won't tell you what the
I think that was it.
So, I guess we're gonna ask you to,
For the
in a
20th
perfect
early
day, yeah,
and the 21st in the afternoon.
10, 11, 1 and 2 kind of thing like that?
Yeah.
You can stay late. 10, 11, 1 and 2, it's
Once I get through the traffic jam, it's easy.
all downhill.
The outgoing chairman.
I mean, if we gotta roll one over to the 21st, not the end of the world, and try to do the best you can.
So my next question is, you're gonna invite those supervisory elects to participate, since they will be the.
Ah, hell with them.
I'm just asking. I remember the cast of thousands like that in front of when I did it. So, and they are remember, they're the ones that have to vote. It has to be-
Well, that's right, they make you put
Right, it
that.
has to be the new board that votes. because they run for the term
Right.
before the appointment.
So
So,
would we appoint him at the December meeting?
no, you have to appoint the new.
You'd have to appoint him on January 2nd.
January 2nd.
Organization,
The organization meeting.
that's when the appointments go.
Yeah, well, we should probably invite them, let them in the committee.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think you'd wanna invite them anyway to see what the hell it's all, anything they learn before they actually are voting.
You wanna show them how to make the meat and sausage? Are you sure you wanna do that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they need to see it all. They need, it needs to be.
Before they take
I remember in November, I was told, yeah, you can stay for the executive session, you're elected. So it's.
You've been traumatized too.
Yeah. Close the door, like, okay.
What did I get myself into?
You just want to see what's revealed.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing this bus there. It's something you can try to work with. Okay. Well, I am.
You are, but
I
it's
know,
okay.
right, okay,
I'll do it.
okay. Are you okay on that for now? And you'll let us know?
If they can have office complaint about it.
Daryl?
So you,
This is all the stuff with what.
not to hold us up to, you know that.
You have it?
Is that something we see ahead of time? or you want us
I'd like to send some questions to you guys.
Yeah,
And
please.
see if they're appropriate and
right.
be consistent with each interview.
Okay. Here's some of your great questions.
I do have some, but,
We have
Quite
a,
a few.
we have a, topic opening question, but our job would be then the follow-ups that will really tell us what we need, they're sort of general. Okay,
I'll send those to.
okay. We have another request, is that true?
Well, it's discussion on the EMS coordinator position.
Yeah,
I don't know that we received his retirement official.
Just in verbal.
Verbal. So I wanted to discuss the process for that
sure.
as well.
Verbal at committee.
Okay, what are we doing?
It's video. It's
Yeah,
on
if
the
you
record.
want it. Yeah.
All right,
I'll
So-
mention.
Yeah, so we had some conversation, with the director and the deputy director of public safety regarding the EMS coordinator, who is looking to retire at the end of the year. In looking at how the appointment was made in the past, it looks like, when the incumbent was appointed, the director of public safety appointed him, and then there was also a resolution by the full board, appointing the individual. In talking to the county attorney and, several conversations with public safety, it does look like it would be a board appointment. The way everything is written right now. And then the oversight administratively is done by public safety. There's been some discussion with public safety and I guess looking to the committee to see if that's the way you'd like to do it in the future, or if you would like to change the process. Because the position is very limited in hours, it's very kind of remote, not really in the building much. The salary is quite low because it's a part-time, almost per diem position that works when needed. So I guess there is some interest in public safety to have that position be more of an appointment by them, so that the oversight is by them and they have more take control, the oversight of the position and the duties that are performed. So that would require a change to the local law, correct, Roger?
So there is no
If
local.
you did want to
Yeah,
do that,
there is-
sorry.
There is no local law now, there's the New York State county law. Make sure that there's a state law that's highway county law. And it says, my memory is going. Yeah, if the office of EMS coordinator is created in any county, an EMS coordinator shall be appointed. So it is a county office, okay? So my viewpoint is that it's a county appointment, as it was by resolution back in the day. If you want it, and there can only be one appointing authority. And so, civil service doesn't, we can't say, well, you'll appoint, there's no advice and consent, I guess, like we're used to seeing in judges and things like that in the Senate. So if you wanted to change the appointing authority, I think you could supersede that by local law and create the position of EMS coordinator by local law, place it under whatever department you want to place it under, and provide that person with the ability as the appointing authority. And then
Otherwise, it would be the board.
Otherwise, it's a county office, the board's creating the office. I think that's a county office, so if you want, unlike the fire coordinator, which makes it a board appointment in the statute. There's an extra sentence in there, and the board shall appoint a fire coordinator. That is not in there, but the fact that the board is creating the office, in my viewpoint, makes it a county office, so the cleanest way to do it, so you only have one appointing authority. Question about is just pass a local law saying the office of EMS coordinator, is established, it should be placed under here, the appointing authority shall be this. And then you've got a clear line, because like you said before, it was,
Well, who's gonna be the person who decides on who's chosen?
that's the appointing authority.
No, that's who appoints them. Who's gonna vet them? Who's gonna interview them? Who's gonna go through all that?
Normally, the appointing authority, you guys don't, in some appointments, like when I appointed, I don't know, you can say, here's what I'm here's what's going on. So if you want to keep your fingers in the pot, then I would say to you, keep it the way it is, and you guys make the appointment, and then you can put them administratively. So like who processes my, who does all that kind of stuff. You can put them administratively wherever you want, and that's what the resolution back in 1994, I think it was, said that the Department of Public Safety for administrative purposes. Or you could just say, you know what, we're gonna
let those guys do all the vetting and the interviewing, and then they're gonna make recommendations to us, and then we'll appoint them.
Well, you could do it that way too,
I'm
if you
just-
wanted to. I mean, you could take your recommendations from wherever you want. Traditionally, we've taken recommendations from the EMS advisory board. We've taken all comers, really. I can't. Pete Daychek has left by the time I got here, that was 94. But that's where I think you need to decide. You want to be the appointing authority? Do you want to be the decider of who gets to be in that slot? Or do you want to say, okay, it's gonna be like safety officer. I appoint the safety officer. You don't appoint the safety officer. You want it to be more like that? Or do you want it to be somebody that directly reports to the board and that you?
Mr. Chairman of Public Safety, you have an opinion?
I do.
Okay, listen.
My opinion is that the office, that coordinator works inside of public safety or the director of public safety. That's how it's currently going right now. And unless we change that, I believe that the director of public safety, who's in charge of all of this, should be the appointing authority.
So we need to look at that.
I would recommend you do it by local law.
That way it defines.
That way it's clear.
Yeah, it defines, so we control that anything in the future by the public law.
Right, so you appoint the director of public safety, but the director of public safety runs that operation.
Correct.
If you're unhappy with that operation, you talk to the director of public safety.
Dave? Give your hand up.
Well, I was wondering if the fire coordinator still fits the same model.
No.
We don't.
Fire coordinator has a specific sentence in there that says, the board shall appoint.
You're
I'm
on
just saying, I
control that.
was wondering why they had them report to appointed by the board.
I don't know.
Is there a reason that they did that? I'm just curious about that. Why would you then differentiate?
Essential service.
EMS coordinator also came later in the process. Like there was a fire coordinator before there was an EMS coordinator.
Right?
I think my concern would be, I like it better where you do, because those people are the ones on the ground in an active situation. And if they know that it isn't working out on Tuesday, by Thursday, they might need to make a change, to put somebody else there. If nobody got along and things, we shouldn't be waiting for 10 more meetings to decide who we're gonna pick.
So we'll start the local law, so we will next week set a public hearing date and an introduction of local law, and then we can do it in December. We can do it that fast. What would our process be, Roger? Through here, through finance, through the full board, where do we go?
Well, through here, I don't think it necessarily needs to go through finance.
Okay.
You might want to vet it through more folks. That's what finance.
Nah, they don't show up.
But, we could introduce the local law instead of public hearing and just bring your, reading glasses in December, and just do local laws, come out of our local laws.
Okay.
We insert it.
That's what the committee wants to do? You can be kind of a consensus nodding, yep. Let's head down that path, Roger.
Okay.
Tim, you good with that? Yes. Okay, Danielle?
Without talking to Bruce, I'm sure that if we talk to Bruce, that they'd be interested in sort of hanging out for another month. We all work together anyway to make sure it gets done, so it's not a problem one way or the other, but.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Do we need a motion, Debbie? Do that?
I'll make that motion.
There you go, Daryl and Dave.
Aye.
Kathy, say aye.
Just say hi, there's enough hi in there.
I didn't want to interrupt.
I got that.
You told us, I remember Ken saying. It didn't move there.
Okay, we got that taken care of.
Ribbon.
Other business, anybody? Okay, we are.
In case I didn't make it for me.
Didn't never.
All right, we're on you.
Okay, call finance to order. I need a motion to accept the. So move. Moved by Dave, second by Daryl. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, right into the creditors. Hey, good morning.
Congratulations.
All of you, especially the ones
He said with a smile. So we'll start off with some decent news. I was pleasantly surprised by seeing an increase of 166,000 on the sales tax deposit yesterday. So what was interesting about that, and I talked to the budget officer about it, we had two that had dropped a little bit in the red, not significantly, but a little bit in the red. So for them to see a downward trend and then still give us an up deposit, means that they're seeing a trend that we haven't seen yet on our end. So I'm pleasantly surprised that there was an additional 166,000 over last year. The next deposit could be red, it very well could be, but I don't know that they would have given us this much extra if they thought our trend was down. So I am cautiously optimistic, I guess, are the words that I'll insert here. And we'll look forward to a decent holiday season and shop online and have delivered to your house, please. I appreciate that.
That's way to shop.
He's very updated, just one re-election. Another 4 years.
Sorry.
Cash balances are doing well. I know that's something that this time of year we always, sometimes we've had some nail bites. So there are a couple of funds I'm going to talk about in a minute to keep our eye on, but overall countywide we're doing really good. One item of note that I wanted to draw your attention to on the cash balances, the county clerk got a significant mortgage tax deposit and had the wherewithal to give me a call and have that money sent over to our ICS investment account. So rather than let $650,000 sit at a 0.15 checking account, it's going to earn 5.01% in the investment account. So I appreciate some department heads that are on top of things like that, because I don't see her account, so I would have never known about it. So I just wanted to share that with you because everybody's kind of pitching and making the wheel go round, so to speak. As far as our budget actuals, things are looking good, except there's two places I am going to monitor with Mr. Campbell. He's on the thing, Mr. O'Brien, I apologize.
So unfortunately, timing is not our friend. We chose this year to go self-insured on the health insurance, and unfortunately, we couldn't have picked a worse year. Things are not trending very well right now. We have our eyes on it. We have Benetech helping us monitor. But you may see us come back to you in December with an ask, because the fund is getting a little bit lower than I'm comfortable maintaining at this point. We had 3 weeks where things dipped back down into normal, and then last week was over 300,000, this week is over 200,000, so. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away, because just when I thought things were back to normal, it dipped again. And our cash balance is getting, like I said, lower than I'd like to see it. So you come back in December with an ask to, maybe get a little injection into that fund. And this is probably the perfect time to do that, honestly.
And we did change that in the budget for next year.
We
We
have-
don't want, but we don't know enough.
We don't know that we've
Until we
gone-
know what the corrected numbers
I
are.
don't know that we've gone far enough for
Yeah.
24, but we'll see. But with the sales tax number being what it is this year, and the personal services breakage being what it is this year, I think that it's probably gonna be a good opportunity. If you're gonna give an injection, now would be the time to do that. The other one I have my eyes
So you're a
on,
month away on doing that though, is that what you're saying?
I would wait till December finance before we pull the trigger on that.
Then we'll have a better idea.
We'll have a better idea where we're gonna trend, so. The other one that I wanna keep my eyes on, and I haven't really wrapped my head around it yet, so I gotta dig in deeper. Road machinery looks like it's kind of running really lean, almost to the point where I've got some projections that they won't have enough fund balance to cover what you've appropriated for 24. I've run 3 different scenarios. None of them are good numbers. One of them is a really unacceptable number. So stay tuned on road machinery. There may have to be a discussion on that as well. But those are the only 2 funds I really need to bring to your attention at this time.
Well, those are nothing new. That's not.
They're ones that we've talked about for the past 3 months or so, but they're getting, to dangerously close to action items now. And then at the end of your packet, I did share with you, the quarterly, Rivers Casino distribution came in. I have not done an analysis on it. I apologize. It just came yesterday, so I wanted to get it out to you.
So that's the quarterly, so we make about 250 a year. And what's our budget, about 250? We pretty close to budget?
Never reached what they told us it was gonna, I know.
Well, originally it was gonna be what, 700 or something?
Yeah, whichever the number they said it was gonna be. And we've seen the quarters up in the 90s, I think, and we're back down to the 60s, so my memory is that it has actually dropped a little bit from where it was.
I was just wondering if we met budget, that's all.
My
We're on
memory is
track.
that we're gonna meet budget.
Okay, that's all I want to know, that's fine.
So that's how I have for you. I can check that while you're moving on. If you want.
Thank you. Youth Bureau. We're basically, we're into the Indian business resolution. We're gonna get that one ordered. Okay, so resolution A is the budget for the Y Reconnect grant. Second. Moved by Dave, second by Daryl, any discussion? All fair say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. B is to amend the public health child passenger safety grant.
Second.
Moved by Dave, second by Cassie, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution C is Board of Elections for Technology Innovation and Election Resource.
Second.
Who moved it? Okay, moved by James, second by Kathy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. D is the Marshall grants. Moved by Daryl, second by Dave. Any discussion on those? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. E is capital project H-123 public safety microwave equipment upgrades. By Daryl, second by Dave. Discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. F is chair up for the 2023 Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest Award.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Dave, second by Daryl, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good.
It doesn't take the vote, but that,
We agree.
our match is coming directly out of the appropriated fund balance. Is that right? We don't have enough in there to, we didn't,
Yes,
we didn't look far enough ahead to figure out we had a match there. Okay.
that'd be my guess.
General fund.
And we could,
appropriate fund.
or, and the only reason we're not using contingency right now is we know we're gonna have a big shortfall in public health.
Okay.
And so, in other words, I just don't dare, cause I don't know what that's gonna be yet. They brought it to us 3 months ago and we're not exactly sure where we are yet.
That's the explanation.
That's the explanation why they're gonna trade to contingency. We're open to the contingency. We'll have to cover that.
Thanks.
Okay, G, budget for criminal justice discovery reform.
Second.
Okay, Dave, second by Daryl, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. H, we're gonna designate the official Democrat paper the Whitehall Times. Moved by Dave. Second by Phil.
Dana.
Last time.
Leave them on mute.
No. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Hey.
Carried. Okay, I is official newspaper designation Republican and being resolved in St. Legal motion. So, second by Daryl, second by Dave, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Go ahead.
I don't know why we keep doing this. I'm going to give my speech every year. I think there's more no official party people than Democrats in the county, but yet they are disenfranchised. We don't even pay attention to them. It should be non-political appointment of newspapers. And you've heard this every single year. And maybe this year I'll get more than just a couple votes. James, please vote with me. Well,
I will make this observation. I went in today to buy some newspapers. I like to read them at lunchtime. And the place that I went into didn't carry the Post-Star anymore. I was in Charlotte yesterday and I was in the terminal. And I went to buy USA Today and another paper. And the lady said, we don't carry newspapers in the whole airport anymore. Newspapers are on their way out, Dana, so you may have a point that it's irrelevant. It was important 50 years ago, but right in 10 years, will there be newspapers at all?
I think web platforms are gonna be, you're gonna be taking and, putting stuff onto a digitized platform and, the county's gonna have to accept, a platform that's representative, that they trust as a way to post.
But Roger's now gonna tell us why we can't do it that way. Is it a state law or state law, we have to designate a newspaper?
States are always.
Is there a Republican
Doesn't say
web
you can't put it
platform and a
on-
Democrat web platform?
At the local level, I don't believe so, yeah. At the national level and state level, yeah, but at the.
There are, at the state level, there's
I think-
designated
I think you can find a designated.
party,
No,
platform?
no, there's nothing that's legally designated.
okay, as a party platform.
Right, but I think you can find, resources that are leaning right and resources that are leaning left.
Okay.
We also put these on our web platforms, it's not the sole thing, and as I've said every year, you wanna do more, there's nothing that says you can't do more. You can designate every newspaper year to do what news if you want to, and pay for it,
And pay for it.
right.
It's in
Parentheses.
Make my ordinary comment also, all our non-affiliated voters have two newspapers they can read instead of just one. So I think we covered them twice as well as we covered the others.
I'd say this law is the appendix of laws, because it's a leftover vestige of prior things in years past that really doesn't serve much of a purpose. But like your appendix, it's still there, until the legislature removes it.
It's still send the assessor to 6 cents too. So.
And the newspapers, and I don't know about other towns, but, the legal notice and how you put it, how many days, whether it be 7 or 5. And when it needs to be in by and when it needs to be available to the public, and then it's a weekly newspaper, it becomes such an issue for putting in a legal notice that it gets put on the back shelf. So then you have to do it again. So it delays process.
It usually costs more. You end up paying for it twice because it didn't make it.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's gotta be a simpler way. But illegally, you may have to,
Those state changes to the law digital.
so we gotta start at the same.
Dana, they added this month, so you'd have something to vote no on at the board meeting, because, you know, we missed you last month.
And we like your snowman, motif.
Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
I think this is a county law about the political designation of newspapers. It's not state, it's not town, not village, it's only county law. But I propose that we still appoint these newspapers. We're a long, skinny county, so maybe one in the north, one in the south, which is what we traditionally do with, you know, maybe the Whitehall Times or the Granville Sentinel, and then the Free Press. But remove the political designation. Just appoint them. Nobody is going to enforce this. Nobody from the state is going to come and say, oh, you didn't call this one the Democrat newspaper. So let's do the right thing and just appoint the papers. Get rid of the political designation, and I guarantee you nothing will happen to us. And if something happens, what is it? They're just going to say, don't do that. There's not a money penalty. Let's just do it to be right.
Are we required to put our public notices in these two papers?
Yes.
As a designation?
Yes.
So going forward, we should just make whatever the cheapest ad paper in the state and then use that to save money, and because nobody reads
We're probably doing that now.
it. Not the Whitehall Times.
It's really why it did not last. Because, you know, it's money. Whether or not.
So just make one, that you make a Republican, and those for both things right, no party thing is right.
Well, the other way has to be a designation, Roger, am I correct?
So. Maybe this will be the last argument, just to have my own. But it is, just like my position we were talking about before, this New York State. So there's a section of law in New York State, there's social service law, there's ag and markets law, and there's a section of New York State law called county law. So it's not a county, Washington County law, it is the New York State counties that says you have to pay this.
It has to be designated Republican and Democrat. You can't change those two words. It has to be that specific. Okay, no.
I should have them.
And it's probably labeled the two dominant parties, right, or it's probably not even.
We can't do QAnon and Antifa.
Probably the top voter, like the top voter.
Designation of official newspapers, 240,
Okay.
I need the citation, I should have. Right? Members of the county legislative body, whether such body be denominated by board of supervisors, legislature, blah, 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 shall designate annually a newspaper published within the county and published in concurrent resolutions. Those designations should be in writing, signed by a majority of the members representing each political party. And making such designation consideration shall be given to the newspaper's application and such principles of such political party or its nominee in respect of its circulation in the town. However, the fact that in the newspaper is an independent newspaper not advocating for the party shall not disqualify from consideration. And if there shall be more than one newspaper published in such counties, such newspaper shall be different. Or there shall be a bubble newspaper published in the county, such newspaper shall be different. And this comes from, let's see, we'll first draft of that was 1950, so. How long that's been hanging around.
You were alive then.
The last time it was amended was in 73.
Don't tell that, take credit for right now.
Roger, from a technical standpoint, could we just merge these two resolutions and make it say that the official newspaper designation for Republican and Democrat are the Whitehall, Granville Sentinel, and the Eagle newspaper? Can we just combine them to make one resolution?
As long as you don't have one, as long as you don't have one party.
No,
How's that work, Danny?
he gets two no's on this now.
No, if you're designating both papers, Republican and Democrat, inside the one
There's
resolution.
only one no for him. He likes to vote back. Again.
Yeah.
I think we should purposely do it against the law. And let there be a
Because he'll
little,
be gone and we'll have to pay the consequences.
I tried to compromise with you, Dana.
Well, that's how it's always worked.
let's ignore the law a little bit, see what happens. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a ruckus, and maybe that will prompt change in the legislature, because this idea of we have to have a Republican newspaper and a Democrat newspaper is stupid, and it disenfranchises everyone that's not a Republican or a Democrat. Why can't we just say that these are the political designated newspapers? Don't say what party, just political. And Roger, what would happen if we do that? What are the consequences? Zero, I bet you.
Neither you nor Roger will be here to suffer that. That's what I'm worried about.
Potentially, somebody could sue to invalidate an action you took based on proper notice.
That would be a
You know,
problem.
You want odds on that happening? I'm not doing that. But
Oh, people can potentially sue us over every little tiny thing. Let's not be afraid of that.
I think we have a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I just want to remind you, Danny, you said you had to leave 11:30. Don't delay us. We got a lot of business to take care of.
Opposed?
Hey,
Thank you, Dave.
Carried.
I'm a no, Debbie.
Yeah, okay.
I thought my.
Okay.
I thought my resignation
Yeah.
would have speaking of a good compromise.
The treasurer's gonna update us on the casino revenue.
Especially since I missed vote, so.
He wasn't wrong, though. He wasn't wrong. He was so.
The deposits so far have been 129, 125, and 130, so we are actually up at that. So, budget 500, that budget's at 384, so long as we do 116 next deposit, which if the trend continues, we will, we'll be good.
Should be up with Super Bowl and all those things.
Super Bowl's in
February.
When the weather turns cooler, though, people would spend more time inside.
We don't need
We are now into the free sport section with hockey, basketball.
Yeah.
More parlays.
More
brother.
parlays.
Yeah.
James, can you tell us which casino app it is on the phone that we get money from?
Bet Rivers,
The Rivers app?
Bet Rivers, yeah. It just,
So for all the
We
people
just
out
get-
there that
just
are
with
gambling,
Rivers,
they
yeah,
can gamble at our own
yeah.
casino so we get money?
yeah, Bet Rivers.
So the other ones, we probably get some OTB distribution maybe, but.
MGM possibly, yeah.
But this one is specific to River.
Right.
Thanks for checking everyone. Okay,
I don't mind coming back with it.
we are on to resolution J, supplemental mortgage tax. First, second by Kathy, second by Jay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I believe everybody has a different number this time.
Yeah.
That's what we were worried about the last time.
Yeah.
We checked that out.
There'll be some significantly different numbers there.
So that's carried.
Yes.
Going out. Mortgage step. Okay. Need a motion on the mortgage tax warrant?
Move it.
Second.
Kathy, second by Dave, any discussion?
That looks like under one.
All in favor, say aye. They're all different. Carried. Those are somebody opposed. Equalization report. Moved by James.
Second.
Kathy, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. So on to K, resolution adopting the budget. The motion to do that.
Yes.
Only moving it so we can get to the board decision.
Yes. But and unless there's any amendments you want to make that you're aware of.
Still need a motion.
So the process is after the standard budget published, the committee that oversees the budget, which is this one in our case, has a chance to make amendments, make and propose amendments. That goes to the full board, which can then make their own amendments. And then budget is either passed or the tentative budget as amended becomes the budget on December 20th. Should no action be taken. So this is your first crack, and you get contract on bank, to say, we'll do all of it, and then you can either pass the whole thing, but the amendments stick. Once the amendments are passed by the board, they stick. You don't pass the budget, you can't come to agreement, then the amendments stick, and the tentative budget as amended becomes the budget.
Harry, okay, we had a motion by Cassie, is there a second? James and Sue, discussion.
Chairman, do you have any reservations or anything you think we should be looking at to increase or decrease at one time?
I think Matt Hicks told it the best the other day. Where it's at is where we're at is good, but come April, it's all out the window with what our revenues become. You know, it's certainly not the best budget we've ever had, and we had to work to even get it close. So I don't know where I'd make changes right now. I had to put a lot of effort in it to get it where it's at.
You're comfortable where it is?
Well, and the treasurer brought up the other one, we just don't know about certain fund balances and we're trying to get a handle on those. But we may have to move money, to make that all. It doesn't affect us passing the budget now.
I have lots of comments and things under discussion.
Yeah.
Okay,
We like that.
you've sort of created the parameters we need to deal with, and it's hard to argue with most of the stuff you have. Property tax 3.14, nobody likes that, but that's sort of where we're at, where we at 3.5 is our cap. So we're under our cap. Right? You got sales tax at 28.5. We're gonna be where this year?
29 to 30.
So we're getting close, but we're not there yet. I'm not comfortable, but it's hard to be uncomfortable with that.
Right.
We're up $900,000 in road, $400,000 in machinery, and $200,000 in carpool. So you're taking a 1.5 from the general fund. You kind of get those comfortable, but Al said if we don't do that, those funds are gonna be
In trouble.
teetering, right,
Yeah.
on the brink. Even with those transfers, does that clean up most of the appropriated fund balance in those funds? There won't be much left, right?
Road machine and carpool are gonna run really. And depending on how we finish county road this year, I think actually Deb will be returning money this year from every projection I can see. So I'm happy about that. Road machine and carpool are, and this has been a trend for 3-4 years now. They're running really good.
Maybe 10.
So it's like, well, I don't really like it, but we can live with it.
Well, that's kind of where I got, we put it together.
So, but the only one that's really sort of ouch is the appropriated fund balance, where in the past, we were at 2.5, 2.6, 2.8. But you took it from 5 to 3.3, still a little uncomfortable, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Now-
the reason I can substantiate that is because we're gonna return more than that to fund balance at the end of the year.
This year.
Yes.
And I understand that as a percentage of total budget, it's not much different than 5 or 6 years ago. I understand that as a percentage of the total fund balance, but it's still kind of a tough one to chew on. I'm not making recommendations, but there's a few things I want to discuss to see if the committee, is that okay?
Yeah,
Would
absolutely.
delve a little deeper into this, just to see, because a lot of the money, again, from general fund is going into those three, DPW funds. And not picking on DPW, I went through the rest of the budget. And there's no place else, I mean, from discretionary spending standpoint, except 100 minor cuts, which you're just kind of,
Picking around the edges.
going in the wind and figuring what the hell is it, how can you predict the future?
And the good news in this is that our department heads do a great job and they don't usually spend what's there. And
Yeah.
that's the only reason it really works, to be honest.
I'm not suggesting these, I want to discuss these, somebody else might have a different opinion on them. And I need to get some more information on them. We had breakdowns of some of the DPW stuff. That was in the first budget, but not in the second budget, that's why I'm kind of lost all over the place here.
Right, everything comes out in the initial one.
Right. There's the one where we, it would be under county road machinery. So we have a wheeled loader, a mower tractor, a blade system, the 550 truck, and then 4 dump trucks. So I was trying to get the appropriate fund balance down under 3 million if we could, if that number could ever be. And the only one place I could figure to begin with was, do we need to buy 4 dump trucks? Can we buy on 3 dump trucks? I did the math, but I don't know if I'm correct, that if we replace 4 dump trucks every year, we'd be replacing our fleet every 6 or 6.5 years. If we only bought 3, it'd still be replaced every 8 years. Which both seem a little, that's pretty quick. Could we sacrifice 1 truck, get the fund balance appropriation down, and still have 3 and still get a decent replacement time frame?
So there's 2 or 3 different things going into the thought process here. First of all, if you remember, the town wanted to be able to buy trucks as we got them back out. And as you know, when we came up with that idea, trucks went from 2 1/4 to 3 1/4. So I don't know what the ability is for the towns to even buy a used truck now, because used trucks are gonna be really expensive too. So that's kind of the one thing. Second one, we bought trucks, we can't get them in. That's a problem. So we don't know how many years other ones are gonna stand by while we're waiting to get them. And then my last question is, if the state actually does what they did to us this year, again or worse in April, we may be at a point where we're not buying anything. They're already under a hiring freeze and all that. That's my concern, is this is our opportunity where we're at to keep things a little bit status quo. Well, boy, the next one, we may be tearing everything down to try to survive under the state revenue stream.
Have we ever though been in a replacement cycle of 6 or 6.5 years? That seems like it's a lot shorter than it
Well,
used to be.
You were here when they changed that. We all voted on it, and we were trying to get to 7 years. And that was about 5 years ago. Yeah, I'm gonna say 5 years ago. I think it was when Chris was here.
Yeah.
If I remember right. And the whole idea and the reason I think the towns agreed to it was there was a lot of towns wanted to buy a reasonably good used truck, and they thought it'd be a great opportunity if they were cycling through faster and they could buy something less years.
One of the bigger reason, one of the biggest reasons given to do it is because they did the calculations on where the maintenance costs started skyrocketing. And that was the biggest change, since we were cycling them out before that, we saved a lot of.
Yeah, but it was between 6 and 8 isn't the sweet spot. It was like 10 when things started really
No,
going south.
emissions is the biggest cost, and it's in the 6 to 8. Remember what?
I don't think we have
remember
enough
our emissions
data on
bill?
that, because
Remember what our emissions, it was like $25,000 on a truck.
that's when it first came in, right? When the emissions first started.
Yeah, and
It was
only got
worse in the
worse.
beginning.
Well, I think they're worse now.
I don't think they are worse now.
So they covered them like under the regular warranty to begin with. The next time we ended up paying, and the number was phenomenal. And if you have to pay them now outside of the warranty, they're gonna be phenomenal. So I think that was the idea, was to get back, we didn't get that second.
We wanna ask them to go back and revisit that number and see if that's still the case, or we can extend them out a little more. They can make a recommendation. Why don't we ask DPW to revisit that again?
Well, wasn't the analysis there when the expense, I think the analysis, if I remember, it had vehicle and then versus how many dollars we were spending to maintain those vehicles. And when you were getting out there, you were basically buying those trucks over and over again. So just because it looks pretty doesn't mean it is pretty.
No, I understand why we try to do it as quickly as we can. I'm just saying,
I think that's.
weighing
where
that
they came up
against,
with that number.
weighing it into the budget and the appropriate fund balance number, I'm going back and forth, and I could live with 3 or 4. I'd rather live with 3, but if we had to go 4. I'm just bringing up for a topic because I'll make a motion if we have to, and then if nobody seconds it and it dies, then we'll move on.
I've looked at those same things and feel the same way. I'm just nervous what the state's gonna do. We may not be buying 3, we may not be buying any. I have no idea. I see it far worse coming to a head in April. I think the rest of you see it at this point in time.
Jim and I don't care.
You will when you get your tax bill.
I get that in January.
Next year.
I get it in January.
But it's in April, it comes in this,
The following January is when you go to May.
When I come up with Merle in April, you're gonna hear.
Next year.
As long as you wear a mask and zip ties, we'll take it.
No, I mean, this is a good kind of conversation, right? So I think there's other levers than just trying to solve that one right now. As you get closer, we have the option to put a freeze on things. We can say, look, this is not looking right. Stop what you're doing.
But if it's budgeted for, Deb can just go ahead and place the order, can't she?
She can't do.
You can't get it.
That's even worse.
No, from a process
Right, no,
standpoint,
from a
she can place the order in March for all 4 trucks.
Just gotta do
And then all of a sudden in April, you get screwed, but those 4 orders are in and they say, hey, you're gonna take it.
Well, I don't know how true that is because they've told us sometimes you just aren't innovative.
Right.
You can't even order.
So I think you could probably, if they can stop your order, you should be able to stop your order too.
You're, that's a conjecture. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if we made a commitment for 4 to the lorries or whoever, let's try to fix it now instead of having to untie knot
For
that.
the shortage of trucks, if we order 4, we decide we need 1, we could probably find someone to take that truck out there.
Okay.
For 330,000?
They're gonna spend that.
Brian.
For years.
Yeah.
If I could say something about the trucks. Is it possible that if you wanna save money, you could ask me to look where to find it, because trucks are really the most important machine in our shop. So it may be possible to find another spot that we need to save money on, because the trucks are really good trucks of our entire work.
Thank you for that comment.
Okay. Well, no, Brian tasked us to spend the last 2 weeks ripping through this to figure out things, and that's the only thing just a couple of things I came up with, that was it. I mean, it's easy to come up with 300,000 with one thing rather than 100 at 3,000.
I don't wanna cut off anything,
Right.
of course, but I don't think that I or the department would start with the trucks if we had to. cut.
What have we bought for trucks the last 2 or 3 years? How many?
4 years.
4 last year, 4 the year before, 4 the year before, that consistently?
Yeah, there's 1 year
There
we
was
can
1 year
get
we
away
got-
with 3. Yeah, we can ever so often, part of what the total is, we can do 1 year and
In a
3.
7-year rotation.
Well, and I just think, I'm afraid that this year's a better year than next year. That's why I left it the way I did.
And I like Deb's comment, right? Because you could go back to department, and we could go back to department and say, find 2%, find 3%. Find it. You guys figure out what you need to do to give us 2% a year.
Yeah,
It's really 1%.
I'm never big on cutting any department without talking to the department.
Right, well, that's my point, rather than this
It gets, well, we end up making the county run inefficiently when we do it that way.
Brian, can I ask Deb a couple of questions, please?
Sure.
Deb, what's the intent to buy a truck, how many months does it take for you to receive a truck? 14 months?
Year.
That could be a year.
A year, 14
We
months?
placed this order last year and we're gonna get our trucks in January. So we replaced it last year. Get trucks used.
So in the meantime, the money is in the account, hopefully in the
I mean,
ITS
yes,
account.
earning big
Earning
interest.
interest. Right,
21.
Yes.
This year.
and so that's important, sugar number 2, because that is revenue that we're seeing in our budgets. It's a funny way to look at it, but it is. But
Brian Dean.
it's
Or was that
I'll
the
let the
dog?
dog speak.
the dogs.
Dana, has the dog got a question or did you have a question?
My dog is my deputy. And yes, she has a question. We have started buying trucks with stainless steel boxes. On many trucks, it's the box that corrodes, and that's why you sell it. But I don't think we ever shifted away from the 7-year selling, considering we have a box that does not rust, which the truck should last longer. I think 7 years is too soon. I would like to see the numbers of how many trucks we have, and if we bought 2 per year, how many years that would be before we change them out. And also, originally, when we decided to start buying stainless steel boxes, it was also decided that when we would sell the truck and buy a new one, we would buy the cab and chassis and then transfer our still good stainless box onto that. But I think the thinking has shifted away that, oh no, when we go to sell it, it's worth more with the stainless box. To me, that's bait and switch. And I would like to see a program where we keep the box, look at cab and chassis only, and then transfer our box. Thank you.
Features and stainless steel box for someone to buy it.
Well, and also I know sometimes the specs change. So the stainless steel that fits this category of truck, the new truck that replaces that category, they don't always match up, and it costs more to change them than it would be to buy the box and sell the truck the other way. So I agree, you've got a good point. That's what we're trying to do. I don't think we've got that many stainless steel boxes yet either, do we?
We have quite a few, I don't know exactly how many. So you're saying you would want to sell the truck without a box?
Yes.
So whoever buys the truck would have to buy it.
Being if you're a town trying to buy a truck, you probably want to buy it with the box.
We should not be selling trucks with the idea that a town will get it. These are paid by county tax dollars. Forget about the benefit to the town. That's almost, that's a little bit corrupt. Don't do it that way. Think about county need, county use.
I'm
Not the
glad you
secondary
mentioned
thing.
that because there's a lot of decisions made here by looking out for the town, not for the county. So I
Not when they're
appreciate
$330,000 each.
That's good. That's good to hear.
How many have we resold to the town for the last 2 years? When you sold off?
When we go to the town,
Yeah,
we just started doing just.
you just started, okay, yeah, so we're just into the process. To about many?
Well,
Well, and we haven't got to the lower year ones. Some of these are 15 and 20 years old. that we
Okay,
just
so,
saw.
yeah. I agree.
So we haven't gotten to the ones that would be advantageous.
Got a couple more years, it'll work itself out, and
You would think.
yeah, it will.
So what's your next idea, Matt?
Well, so I was gonna say, a phrase that I probably shouldn't say in a public meeting, but I'm flapping my gums in the wind here.
No.
Make a motion.
He said no to everything.
It's always beneficial to have the conversations because people have that in the back of their mind.
It's
Even
just-
if we don't change something today,
Right.
we'll be thinking about it tomorrow.
I'm not gonna vote no on the budget for Black Ford truck, I'm telling you that, I'm just saying, I've gone through every line I can. And other than saying, let's cut everything 1%, which I'm not comfortable with that either. If the board doesn't feel that we should change that, then we'll move on.
Well, let's listen to all the ideas.
There aren't that many, because there's not a lot of places to go. And
Change it to
unfortunately,
2.
the discretionary money in DPW, I couldn't find it anyplace else. I can't do public health or DSS and those kind of things, you
Is
know?
that because they don't have interfund transfer?
Yes, more than likely.
So you could look at an interfund transfer to these separate funds, but not in A itself where most of the county is,
Right.
right?
Well, you look through A though, it's hard for me to cut public health. I have a modicum of information being a town supervisor about equipment, but I don't know squat about the DSS. To say, oh, we gotta cut $300,000 a year for mental health.
So then the
Public
more
health.
that's mandated.
Yeah.
That we can't play in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
There's
why they
no
don't
place
get
for me to
planned.
go in there.
Why we
I know you feel picked on and you've been picked on in the past very hard. I'm not picking on you. There's no other place for me to go.
Brian, you've been looking at the future, we aren't. So your argument is we need the 4 trucks this year because next year we might be 0 or 1. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that, and I'm also saying you might not even get any.
When is-
One, you might not be able to afford them. 2, they might not even come in. Everything is so backed up right now in that world.
And
Well,
when's the
we-
next change for the emissions nightmare?
Anytime.
Right,
Yeah.
so
Doesn't
I
go
think
there.
you wanna,
You
You wanna get ahead of that.
Matt, were
Yeah.
you suggesting we save our money so we can buy all electric in 2025?
Okay, stop.
Electric what?
Why?
they'll be 3 miles down the road on their route and the battery. will be dead.
Oh, we have that big, generators on the
Bring
back.
my diesel generator so that I can charge my electric. I love those park scenes where they have the 2 plug in your car with a giant diesel generator running 24/7, so you can plug in your car. Defeats the purpose. Next idea.
The other big number is carpool. Equipment, vehicles. I mean, I gotta go after something that's in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands or millions to try to come up with 300,000, right? So. We're buying a quad cab for the engineers. We're buying a bridge trailer. We're buying 4 compact SUVs for carpool, 2 hybrids, 2 gas. As I mentioned in the last meeting, I wonder if we should kind of hold off on that until we get a comprehensive look at our whole carpool fleet. See if we really need to buy more vehicles, especially with the big influx we've had, especially through Gina. Do we really need to budget for those now? Can we cut those back? You know, a little bit. I don't know. I'm just grasping for straws. We're buying 3 foreman's trucks. Could we get by with 2? We're buying 2 sheriff investigators. Could we buy with 1? Sheriff patrol vehicles 5. Could we get by with 4? You know, I'm nitpicking here a little bit, but you know, add those up and it comes to, you know, $200,000, which might help. Again, it's on replacement. It's on the cycle, and how big a necessity are they? You know, I know the requests and I get it.
That's a good.
There's a lot of miles on things. I mean, yeah, you're sort of in charge of carpool, but it's not your thing, that's your thing.
Well, the replacement is definitely, so when we're buying new cars, they get cycled into carpool. So that some of the newer carpool cars can go into fleet to get rid of, we still have some 2007s. We still have some really old cars.
But do they ever get used? Does anybody drive a 2007 out of the carpools anymore?
We, cycle a lot into highways and then have to get
Okay.
And then, I can't speak for some of the other requests for like different departments that. Separately. But the, foreman trucks cycle in so that the foreman trucks can, when they go out to patch, they don't have to take 4 cars because they have 1 truck that's been cycled down to them. So we've got some really old foreman trucks that we need to get rid of as well. But we tried to make them work. We put new boxes on them and, you know, we really tried to.
Okay.
Talking with Deb, I agree with you, man, on some of this. And mostly with Dana too, because we have these cars that are very old, they have low mileage. And Deb says, well, people come in, they're grabbing the new cars, they're not grabbing. I think we need to be more organized. The older cars go out the door first. I think we need to look at our percentage of usage throughout the week. If we're only using 60% most of the week, but they say, oh, we're out of cars on Thursday because everybody's out, should we be shifting schedules and we can run less vehicles than what we're running now? But I know Melissa was starting to look into this.
Yeah, this
stuff.
seems a huge one.
Yeah, we were getting the information, Deb and we're gonna meet before the next public works meeting. And then information will come there. Be provided to you.
And that is important because I think we could cut the carpool by cutting the number of them that go to fleet. So, you know, it's like we talked before, probation goes out after hours sometimes, so does the DA's office. Do they actually need their own fleet? They could go to the carpool, everybody else is went home, the carpools are back. So they could take a carpool car and go, but they get in a fight over who gets the old sheriff's vehicles and things like that. And it's my belief, it costs a lot more to drive those because of the heft, the amount of fuel consumption, the whole thing. That I'm not sure the sheriff cars shouldn't get sold, so they aren't the ones in our pool. Because I don't think an ADA needs something with a huge bumper on the front, you know, then they might hit a deer in there. But other than that, I think it would be more incidental to get some of those cars out of fleet into pool. And the pool would work all the time for us. Right now, it seems like we're working to take care of the pool instead of the pool working to take care of us. But that's gonna take an in-depth look.
Yeah, I know, and I couldn't do that in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
The data wasn't there, so I'm grasping at straws to try to find $200,000 or $300,000. And could I live if we cut these back? Yeah. Could I live if we left it the way it is? I suppose, but I'm not passionate about any of these. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way we can get that number down. And Dana probably disagrees with me. I want to get the fund balance appropriation down. You'd want to get the tax levy down. But at least we're talking about starting in the same direction.
My hope is to not spend the fund balance. That's where I work on. And usually we get there, but occasionally we don't. And the worse the revenue comes from the state and the federal level, tougher that's gonna be. Dana?
Matt, the only thing I disagree with you on is you say these are small numbers, ignore them. You're looking for the big number. That's what Bob Banks used to always say, and I always disagreed with that because cumulatively, if you fine tune your budget, there's a legacy because next year you try to fine tune that again. You don't just copy it. I would propose, I'm wondering what the savings would be, and it's probably maybe only, well, maybe 150,000, maybe more. Go down to 2 plow trucks, not 4. I think they could live with that. And the 2 hybrids, they're more money. I know we're trying to get them for an experiment, but if we're looking to save money, go with 4 internal combustion cars, not 2 internal combustion, 2 hybrid. Because what's the extra cost for a hybrid? It's got to be probably 5,000 more per vehicle, right? So why are we doing that? Let's just go to regular fossil fuel vehicles.
Well, I went through this with a lot of things where we appropriated so much for this year. And I found we're not spending anywhere near that this year. So I thought, let's cut that back. But then I go to Seattle and he'd say, oh, that's only been billed through June 1st. That's only been billed through September 1st. We're going to spend all that. I probably hit him with 10 or 12 of those things. And that threw that out the window. So I wasted 2 hours doing that. I can't find any place else, Dana, unless we do, like Daryl mentioned, tell everybody to cut all their appropriations 1%. But that's sort of a too broad a brush, I think.
I suggested that quite a few years ago. Go back to the department heads, tell them that they need to cut their appropriations by 2%. They can find 2% because lots of times they build in money because they figure if they don't increase their budget line, they won't get that same number next year. But let's be efficient. Go back to the department heads, ask them to find 2% in their budget. They can do it.
That's why we actually went to net cost, because cutting your appropriation didn't necessarily cut the net cost at all. Because they cut out some that was 100% funded and say, hey, there you go. So
Brian, why do you argue? Brian, why do you always find a reason not to reduce spending? Somebody will suggest reduce spending and you come up with all these reasons. Oh, no, you can't. Try it someday. You might like it.
I'm saying you can't say cut appropriations because you have to say cut the net cost. The net cost is the only way you can get it down. Because if they cut something that's 75% or 100% funded, you didn't save anything in the end. That's the problem. I just said that's why we switched the net cost, was so I could go back to the department heads and say, hey, we need your net cost to get down here.
We're saying the same thing because if you have if you have a cost, it goes back into the appropriations, correct?
What's that?
A cost is part of your appropriation, correct?
Yes.
Give it to the department heads. Tell them you need to cut up the appropriations. They will go and they will find the cost lines to cut.
What?
We did that, right, a couple of years ago or several years ago, maybe it's been done several times.
I've done it a few
But-
times on my own.
And the one thing, from a department head perspective, and I can speak on behalf of the small departments especially, they don't have the extra fluff to cut a 2%. There's some departments that just have staff, office supplies, minimal training expenses. There's just not a lot of extra room where, yes, some of your bigger departments might be able to cut a little bit more, but 2% across the board means different for different departments.
No, I get it. And from a town standpoint, because we live in the town budgeting world, right? So it's easier to, our budget number stays pretty much the same. There's been a huge change in sales tax, right? There's been a huge change in revenue. There's big changes here. And if the fund balance appropriation was getting out of whack, where it was X%, it was 7% before, now it's 11%, I'd be freaking out. But as the growing of the budget, I get it. The growing of the taxes, it's about the same percentage as a few years ago, so I can rationalize that a little bit, even though it's kind of hard to digest. I sort of get it, Brian. You've done a really good job here, and I'm not uncomfortable with it. I gotta ask the questions. I can't just capitulate and say, I'm not gonna bother with it. Yeah, let's just go with it. I just couldn't do that.
Well, I actually appreciate that because it means people are looking and actually understanding, and that's kind of what we're after here.
I couldn't find anything else. I hit Al with a whole bunch of revenue answers and he had to answer for her questions. He had to answer for everything. And I couldn't go anywhere there, you know? Yeah, I didn't have, everything else is trivial, that there's no sense in going through it. It won't make a big difference.
Well, what's the will of the committee? Do you want something more out? Do you want something more in?
One thing that it's my job to tell the board, that it doesn't require action, it just requires Peter to tell you. There's only one of the funds that I, with my projections, as accurate as they possibly can be. Because one turn of the dice and my projections are worth the paper they're printed on. Only one of the funds will be compliant with our fund balance policy that we passed. So it's my job to tell you that. I don't need you to react to it. I don't need you to do anything, but I need you to at least know. I can throw you some numbers. I can show you later if you want, but I finally got a chance to run some numbers and workers' comp, interestingly enough, is the only fund that looks like it'll be compliant with the fund balance policy that we passed earlier this year. My job to tell you that. You don't necessarily have to do anything with it, but you need to know that.
And before that, we didn't have a fund balance policy, so we were in compliance then too.
The good news, it does give us a goal. So even if we miss the mark this year, it's still a nice budgetary tool to give us a goal for tomorrow, right? So that's the purpose of a fund balance policy is sustainability.
And the whole idea is if we return enough to fund balance, we might actually make other ones compliant too. It's hard to know at this point.
But you had, you were up at $12.2 million in the transfer, so you knocked it down to 12, so you do 200,000 out of these.
Yeah, I was trying to get some.
Well, yeah, on the first one, I was like, oh, I got him in my crosshairs now, and then you knock it down to $100,000. And I went to Al, I think we really could up our interest revenue. But, because, right.
You can blame my bills and suspenders for that.
Well, no, but I don't think the interest rates are gonna change that much to make a difference, till you said, but we're gonna have less cash
Yeah.
to invest.
I don't think the rate will drop.
So
I think our cash on hand.
I think when he told me that, I can't go anywhere.
I was in an economic conference on Tuesday, MBT Bank put it on, and they project interest rates to stay around 5 or beyond 4.5 next year. They see some easement coming up.
But if it stayed at 5, it still would be 5% on.
Less money.
Unless.
Maybe I shouldn't have asked you and just done it. So,
We have, I guess, so the question, is there a motion for 4K?
We got a motion in a second.
And a second, and are there any amendments?
Day and a half.
Why are we making a motion on the budget? Because Brian we don't have the authority to tell Brian yet.
No, my part's done.
Right.
I did the tentative budget. My part's done. It's now the board. This is how it works.
This needs to come out of finance.
This finance has to get to the full board, and the full board, you get invited the applicant to change it, but no,
All right.
I've done the job I was supposed to do now.
All right, Matt has a good point about the interest. What is it in the budget? Because you either reduce cost or you increase revenue. It's the same effect. What is the percentage that we're looking in the 2024 budget that we're going to get on interest? Is it undervalued? Can you increase it 0.5%, 1%?
And that's what they're saying. It's, the part isn't about the rate. The part is about the amount that will be available to actually earn interest. Because we've got buildings we're paying for and things like, so you're gonna have big numbers coming down.
interest and earnings was up, we budgeted $1 million. We only budgeted 350 last year. We've received 822,000 already, so I'm thinking, well, if we're 3/4 of the way, that could go up to 1.3, 1.4 easy. Till Al burst my bubble. And he says, we'll still have the same interest percentage, Dana, but he says we're gonna have less of it because a lot of it was in fund balance, right, Al? In other words, capital plan and all those other things.
Capital plan.
So you'll spend it out.
You're sitting on $10 million of ARPA money that's gonna be out the door.
Yeah, this is the example of numbers telling you one story till you dig to the next level and then you find out it's a different story.
So
Why can't we change accounts? Why can't we put the money into interest-bearing accounts?
It
It
is.
is. There's just
No,
less of
it's
it.
spent.
There's less of the pie to be in, to gain interest off of
In
according to Al.
2024, it will be spent. So it won't be there to gain interest. Not because we still have it, it will be spent.
You're not
I would
spending
be
it, you're not spending it January 1.
No, you'll gain it for a while.
We'll let Al explain how that works, because
I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that we're already over $1 million this year. But you should know that.
what would happen if I suggested we make that 1.3 million for next year? You're gonna have,
Worst case, you eat 300,000 of my fund balance,
if,
if it doesn't come to fruition.
but the point is, you don't wanna project that because the pie is smaller.
Yes.
Which is the same thing as budgeting 3.3 million. It's the same as budgeting 3 and needing.
I get it.
The same.
I don't like it, but I get it.
Al,
Sir.
the example you gave us of the mortgage tax amount is like $600,000 came in.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other accounts you should be watching that may have money on that could move into the ICS account? And make that extra money?
I watch that daily. I move money as
Yeah,
fluently as I possibly
yeah,
can.
you didn't know about this.
Right.
You don't see what's in there, nothing.
The only other account not on my radar is the sheriff's accounts, and traditionally, he doesn't see anything of that size.
Just a question.
And I think that I'm on the county clerk's radar now, so that if there were another deposit of that size, there would be a communication.
Is there a chance that you could put out a communication to department heads, including the sheriff, saying,
The only two not under my purview is the sheriff and county clerk.
so just a suggestion that, revenue makes money in ICS accounts, it may not be to your,
And like I said, I am now on the county clerk's radar,
yeah, that's great.
and through the sheriff receipts that I get from him monthly, I can tell you his don't reach a balance that really.
Yeah, if you're gonna pick up 300,000, you, on 5%, you need like $8 million worth of money you're not
Yeah.
figuring in to gain interest.
And if he was to get a big bail, that comes over to me anyway, he doesn't keep it, so his only chance at a large deposit will come my way.
Clerks is an anomaly. That's not something that's gonna happen every month. Those happen once in a great while.
Because you remember, she remits to me, so even if she took in $500,000 in October, the first week of November, that gets remitted to me anyway. She never has a large number for more than 30 days at a time,
She just moved it quick because she got it quick.
because this was gonna be around for a while.
So now, you said that the revenue for the interest is up to 1,000,009.
We're budgeting $1 million for next year.
We have exceeded
And we have $1 million right this year.
We've exceeded $1 million already this year.
We had the bigger pie this year than we will next year.
That's my,
That's what we're.
yes.
What's in
Based
it
on the budget in front of me, that is true.
regarding the construction of the barns, that money is in there for those construction of the barns.
Yes, ma'am.
And the way building supplies are in putting out RFPs to build things. Sometimes it takes longer than we would like. So could it potentially be another year before they start going?
And the good news is that money is actually set aside to capital project earning its own interest.
Yeah.
So able to be able to be put to the barns, so I like that very
Yeah,
much.
yeah, that's.
We're looking specifically at general fund right now.
Yeah.
And again, if you were to take, if you were to take 300,000 off the appropriate fund balance and increase the interest by 300,000, it wouldn't break my heart, because the worst case is 300,000 doesn't come to fruition, the appropriate fund balance.
It's left pocket, right
It's
pocket.
left pocket, right
I get
pocket.
it.
It doesn't move the needle, unfortunately.
It's only taken me 13 years of doing this as I'm leaving to figure out all this budget.
That's a feel-good amendment, not a.
You know, the services outside.
He wants to leave
Well,
knowing.
maybe we
that
can
it's
adult
not-
next year.
Consult for budget.
You're
We
gonna
just
slap me
give
to
it to
dope
Matt.
slap Brian every once in a while.
Absolutely. I'll pay you $2 an hour.
Cool. The last thing I will say is I appreciate what Daryl said earlier, is that you pass this budget and that's your spending plan. You still have all next year to monitor it and make adjustments where necessary. So, if you were to vote on this budget tomorrow and it passed, you still have the fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers every month, every week, every meeting, to continue to monitor that spending plan. So you get a continual bite at the apple. It's not a one and done.
And we've had to drill down in the middle of the year, but the way the state budget went the last time and the way it's looking in April, I think in April, we're gonna be really looking, what do we do now? Because I don't. Any night training armor coming out of Albany.
COVID was a great example of monitoring your budget. I mean, you all made some very distinct resolutions and amendments in reaction to the COVID pandemic. So you saw that you have a continual duty during the amount of your spending plan as well.
All right.
Dana?
I'll wait until we get to other. Thank you.
So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. David didn't say no.
I'm meh.
We're on to L, the non-union grade schedule.
Move it, Dave.
Move. Is there a second? Second by Sue, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. That must be a salary. There's.
You got one week. Right? Hiring, right?
On that. Why can't I find that?
In the middle, I'd like to have a little thing.
There we go. Okay. Evidence to establish the salary schedule for the executive. Motion. Motion by Darrell, second. Any discussion on no? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution N is to set the time and place for the public hearing and introductory local law E. Moved by Darrell, second by Passing. Any discussion on that?
Question.
Yep.
What is local law E?
Salaries of the county administrator, the county attorney, the commissioner of social services. Superintendent.
Clerk, attorney, personnel officer.
So it's the term appointees,
Thank you.
during the term. will be decided by the local law.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Very good. And subject to permissive referendum, by the way.
Is there taxpayer letters in there?
Brian, can I have a question about the taxpayer letter
Yes.
and the way the tax bills look? The tax bills, if you're a common lay person and don't know how the budgets work and things like that, it's very confusing because it always has the percentage of levy increase, which is not the true story when the time you figure in the tax rate per thousand. Couldn't it be the percentage of increase of what you actually pay over last year? Don't pay any attention to the tax rate or the levy, just a percentage of increase or decrease in the actual dollar amount that your bill is. People will understand that.
Yeah, I think that's a statutory thing that we can't change. That's what we have to put on the bill is the way I understand it, because I think you've heard me tell the story for years. When I get mine at home, and I know that every year I gave my fire department 2% increase every budget. And it didn't matter. Some years they were down 4, some years they were up 8 after you did all the calculations. But it would say down 4, up 2, down 1, up 3, up 8, whatever. And I know that budget was always 2. But that's the way this statute reads, I believe, of the bill.
Yeah, so that's why we have to do the letter, because you're not allowed to do those kind of things on the bill.
So the letter kind of explains that.
So can we change the letter for example?
Letter you really want.
For example, say the levy goes up, and what are you proposing, Brian? It's like
3.14.
Say that again.
3.14%.
Okay, 3.14. Imagine the levy increase is 3.14. Due to COVID and people paying more money for all their houses, our tax rate's going to go down because the assessed value of the county is way up. So if the tax levy increases 3.4, but the tax rate goes down 5, you're actually paying 1.5% less, but nobody understands that. Maybe in the letter it would be,
Your rates
and I
down.
know each individual tax bill is different because everyone's assessed value of their own property is a little bit different. But you could say generally overall, maybe there's not a way to do it. I don't know. But I think when you get the tax bill, people don't understand because nobody digs out last year's tax bill to say, okay, I paid $3,820. The levy's going up.
I do.
Wow.
We all think our old ones sound more.
They call it- That's what we do bills.
I was ready to do it.
So yeah, the idea of the letter is to tell them the reality, but the problem is if you have a $200,000 house, it became a $300,000 house, and you didn't do anything to it, just a reval. Your rate went down, but your
Well, you pay
tax
is the
price,
same.
your tax dollars might have went up.
Yeah.
But nobody understands that.
But that's, I guess you can't think for them, they're gonna have to.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to do their own research to figure that out.
The bottom. See it.
I get back to like these down. What your inflation rate is.
Maybe the letter could encourage people to look at last year's tax bill. And then that's instantly, you can tell the difference and because the levy and the tax rate, you think when it shows the levy increase, you think you're paying more, but you could actually be paying less because the tax rate went down. But everyone thinks they're paying more.
Dana, I've seen towns and villages who have seen their tax rate go down, their tax levy go up, and then we talk to the local reporter, they say the tax rate's going down, and that's what gets printed. People listen, their taxes are going down. The levy went up, so the taxes actually went up. I don't know how you're gonna explain to 62,000 people with one broad brush.
Yeah, because it's possible that the assessment on your house went down, you're changing your percentage.
But you explain to them about equalization rates, that's a great discussion right there, with
Yeah.
somebody in your town.
Equalization rate is great, because if you're at 120%, there's no fix. And if you're at 80, they bump it up, but if you're high, they don't bump it down.
If your equalization rate goes down, the percentage of the county budget you're paying for the town goes up.
Mr. Hanky.
This taxpayer letter was kind of my baby years and years and years ago.
Oh,
And the whole point of it was to demonstrate what we had control over. It was to separate out the mandated versus mandated stuff, so people would understand the kind of process we had to go through and how little we could really affect the overall budget. In terms of numbers, it wasn't to explain tax rates, equalization rates, and all kinds of crap that we would have to write an encyclopedia. This was intended to be probably even simpler than it is. It got transmogrified a little bit here, but the whole point was to say, here's, we worked like the devil on the budget, and we can only affect 20% of it anyway. So that was the whole point of this.
I got what two vocabulary words we say. What do we? Transmogrify and extensivity.
Can you spell
I'll
it?
give you a
No.
vocabulary. I'll give you a vocabulary word.
Might it be shorter than?
You don't have to look that one up.
Sign language?
Yes. But it's interesting because what the chairman just said is kind of what Mr. Hicks was alluding to. Where he dug into the budget was one of the only places he could.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything, wrong with it. It's just, there's only two places you can really dig in.
Sheriff, DPW, there's no place else to go.
The only other thing we built stronger was the DA's office. It doesn't have to be that big, but we did it to magnify what they did to the public defense so that everyone is on even ground. But if we wanna try to control the crimes in the area, that's kind of the only avenue we have.
There's no crime here except Robin and Calamity James 3-4 times a year. Other than that, there's no crime in the county.
So You know, those are the areas that you can look at, but I don't know who wants to look at that because who suffers your own community.
You need a motion to move the letter?
No. Good. We're on the resolution, I'll appoint the member to the county, the Warren Washington County IDA. And that's here because we have resignation.
Mary Kay,
And the person we're putting on is
Richard Rogers.
president of your ARCC.
Oh, that's good.
Move it.
Move.
Moved by James, second by Matt. Dana, question.
Who has resigned?
Mary King.
If I recall, didn't we kind of, or I specifically kind of encouraged her to resign?
Doesn't matter how it got there, she got there.
I think our representatives that do not vote the way we want them to should resign. I know that's going to give Roger a little bit of a palpitation, but that's the way it is.
That's why you appoint them, I think.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution P, authorize purchase of the brine sprayers.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on those? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Q, authorize purchase of the cameras by Sourcewell. So moved. Second. Moved by Daryl, second by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. R is authorize the interfund loan to county road fund. Moved by Dave, second by Daryl. Any discussion?
I want to mention this is why fund balance is important, but this isn't through anything that we can control. There's, we have, you know, at the town level, you spend your money, your CHIPS money before you get it back, right? So we've got, the county has a much larger CHIPS budget than the town do, and we have to outlay that money first. And while we're waiting for CHIPS money, Marshall money, and our first interim snow and ice, the last 2 months of the year are knuckle biters for me. So I'd like to have this in place and not need it, but I'd rather have it in place than not. Because if I don't have it in place, I can't do it. So I hope to not need it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The standard resolutions that we're gonna go through, we don't need to go through them, you just need to see them to know they're coming. Okay. Water and sewer, yeah.
And then there's that last note in bold. There's some stuff coming from 2 District 1, if they get set up right away. Policies and everything, we have to kind of straighten out. Setting the rates and then the references, rate setting, seconds. So no, if they're underneath that, there's just a book note that you won't see some mail because sewer district 1, because of all the changes that they made. We have to we're getting together on Tuesday to get the draft together, send you, but it's not gonna be that difficult. We just have to make sure all the cross references in the laws match up with new references to how they're operating. Between Queensbury and them. So they're old laws under the old system, you just have to make them match.
So the full board just needs to act on all of those.
Yes.
So you get them in your packet.
Well, you won't get those 2 in your back, you can see those next Friday, because you won't have them.
Okay.
For the mail, it's my notes, you those 2 more, but you know, it's not anything complicated, it sets the rates for sewer district 1, but the rates are determined now through a different formula because of what we're doing with Queensbury, and so we have to make sure the formulas match up to the new way of doing it. That's taking a little time to work with it.
Okay, so on the agenda, we went through all the resolutions that came in order. We have to go back and hit to fund the sergeant, the opioid settlement that we talked about in personnel.
Yes. The, at the last Health and Human Services meeting, there was, a presentation with the recommendations for use of the opioid settlement funds that we received. That was approved by the Health and Human Services Committee. Danielle had mentioned it in personnel because, part of those recommendations require a staffing change, adding a sergeant, to the staffing pattern. It's not creating a brand new position, but because of the promotion and moving, because of the recommendation of the funds, you just need to add the sergeant to the staffing pattern. So I'm looking to do that at the next board meeting. And then actually bring the monetary portion to the next finance committee meeting, not the next one, I'm sorry, the January finance. So that way the funds be.
We'll add the
added back.
revenue and the expense, instead of changing it in the budget now, it'll get added next year when we do the opioid funds on the revenue side and the expense side. The dates are quite soon. Anyone who's sitting on that?
So the opioid funds will pay for that position.
Yeah. For about 2 years, we figured it.
And then
We'll have to come to the decision whether we think it's
sunset
something
time or whatever.
or if more opioid funds come in, whether, how we wanna go. That's the way it was presented in committee.
Okay.
Yes.
We good?
No, we have other
We got lots
business.
of.
We have Auctions International. We have-
So, in October, the auction international ended. The gentleman was the high bidder. He came in and paid his 10% out,
26.
20, whatever it is, to the treasurer. And he wants to get the property and start doing stuff with it. Well, we come up not through the treasurer and finance, we come up through government ops generally because it's real property. Which isn't until,
After our vote.
which would be December
Another
before
month,
we could
yeah.
approve it, so. I guess what we need today is to move to the full board, the approval of selling that property to him. Right, Al, am I right? Gabriel, do you have any details you wanna throw out there?
So there's the sale of Church Street, Thomas J. Collard was a successful bidder at 32-1. Is that little slither, the house?
That's it,
right?
that's a
Now
little
we cut
sliver.
off from the bridge area.
So I'm gonna respectfully ask the county attorney to throw together a quick land sale resolution, because I'm leaving shortly after this meeting ends today, and I know Deb needs the resolutions to get them out in the mail to you, because we're not here tomorrow, so. But you should see a resolution Friday for the sale of land for 32-1,
So when does he need to pay the balance?
not until the board meeting date, would be the earliest you can pay.
After the board meeting?
Yes.
So if he came in next Friday afternoon,
You pass the resolution.
Yep.
So
and then what happens?
You
Can
can
you
pay
get
that
access?
tax.
Then you would have to wait for whomever is gonna do the paperwork. This is out of my purview, because I only do the tax sale properties. If I'm asked to help, I will help, but I don't normally get involved in the county properties unless I'm asked to do so.
This is not a tax
This
foreclosure.
is not a tax problem. I would have to defer to Laura.
If we pass it next Friday, and he comes in Friday afternoon and pays the balance, is there a way he can get the keys so we can get started working on it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'll tell
So moved.
Second.
You got the motion
Moved by
second.
Darrell, seconded by Dave, James. All in
him.
favor, say aye.
Ryan, did we
It's a lot
vote
of
on the
effort, that.
opioid? Did we vote on the opioid? I think we had a motion in a second, but I don't know if we voted.
After that, you vote on.
I thought we did.
We voted on the staffing pattern change.
She has.
Oh, that's all. That's all we need.
We voted
That's all we
personnel,
needed.
the staffing pattern change.
Oh, gotcha.
That's all we needed, because all the money and stuff's coming
Thank
out.
you.
Okay, what else do we have under other
We vote
business?
on the,
We did vote on the sale.
I just did.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It got interrupted.
Yeah.
And Dana needs, Dana would like to ask something.
One
He has to
other?
leave at 11.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, hurry up.
Thank you. I have to leave at 11:30, so thank you for fitting this in.
Yeah,
This-
chat.
This probably won't affect the 2024 budget, but it may the 2025. And Al has said that the one thing he doesn't have on his radar is the sheriff. I don't remember what the county's name is, but I can forward you all the information that there's a county that's challenging the state requirement on the pods in the jail. As you know, when people built jails, they were encouraged to build jails larger than they needed. But the sticking factor was that you would have to man the pods that you have, and not really dependent upon how many inmates are in the pods or if a pod is actually being used. So there's a county that's challenging this to where they only have to man the pods that are actually in use. And I think it would be good if we could jump on and try to get something done, because I know the sheriff has often expressed that his hands are tied on the manning of the jail due to this requirement.
You know the county or not off the top of your head?
I don't, not off the top of my head. I have an email from Travis Whitehead, and please don't everyone freak out because I said Travis Whitehead. But I will forward this to everyone, and he's trying to encourage Washington County to jump on, and I think we should also. But maybe if I forward this information out to the sheriff, maybe at the next public safety meeting, it can be discussed.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any others? You have another, okay, Roger.
I'd like to request an executive session to discuss it anyway.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're headed to executive session. Yeah.
It's a really good change.
I know.
Dana's gonna,
Well, he might stay for.
Yeah.
It won't take long. He's gonna enjoy this one. He's gonna enjoy this one.
Just so
I have
you
2 more
guys know, I
minutes.
won't be here in-
Yeah, you're gonna enjoy this one. He's gonna love it.
Maybe then too. Maybe I'm too. Still set for a while.
You have a.
It's late, but it's up.